Hi, I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Courtney, and this is Caffeinated Crimes, Silent Edition. For this episode, you will be listening through telepathy, and there will be no words, only subtitles. Where are the subtitles? I do not know. You have to find them yourself.
You just listen for an entire hour and just imagine what it is that you think we're saying.
Just to Matt, this is a choose your own adventure. We'll say a word, and you let it take you wherever you want. Spring, lion, lake.
Well, when we first started recording, I was like, okay, what am I gonna say? And I was like, oh, maybe I'll say like Happy April. And then I'm like looking at my computer screen, I'm like, well, it's April 16th today, which means that it's a week from today when this comes out, which means April's pretty much all over. So I don't know what the point is in saying Happy April. And then I was like
Yeah.
thinking like, oh, are you guys like April showers? Bring May flowers. Are you having some April showers? And then I'm like, oh my God, this is like
This is
nuts.
this is
So,
nightmarish in my own brain.
so instead, I just sat here and said nothing while all of that was happening in my
You
brain.
know, that's a lot to happen in that little silence. I'll tell you that right now. Which, looking at the calendar though, by when this comes out, that means Thursday there's going to be a new Patreon bonus coming
Yes,
out.
there
So,
is.
it's a good one. I've done like three sentences, but it's going to be a good one. I just know it.
It will be a good one. And I guess we also need to find out when we're going to record that because the
Yeah,
days are running out here.
we'll just have a double record at some point. Or a weekend record. I don't know. We'll figure it
Yeah.
out.
You know,
Choose your own adventure.
that's our future problem, not right now. Right now we're just vibing, we're just here. We're talking about April showers and May flowers and hopefully you'll have May flowers coming soon after all these April showers you've had. See, that's what I was going to try
Yeah,
to say in the beginning and it just we never quite got there, but we have had a lot of April showers here. The last few
had a
days have
lot of
been nice though.
storms.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been very rainy until the last few days. I don't know if I talked about this on the pod, but we've been trying to stay in our deck for forever, but haven't been able to because the weather has not cooperated. But our deck is finally stained. It is all finished as of today. So
Nice.
yeah, it's pretty exciting. It looks really good. It's much better than the last time we stained a deck at our last house where it was like supposed to be gray and was pretty much white and it was blinding and then it
Hmm.
immediately chipped and was so dirty and it was just a horrible choice. But this one looks really good so far. So hopefully we made a
Okay.
better choice.
That's good. That's good. You live, you learn.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Mayflowers, we're inching closer and closer to my 30th birthday, which is absolutely
Yes.
terrifying. But also if you want to celebrate my 30th birthday with me a little bit late, you can come join us at CrimeCon because we'll be there.
Absolutely.
We'll be there. We haven't talked about it a lot. So,
And I feel like we always talk about it at the end too. So yeah, let's plug it here at the beginning. Just a few days after Courtney's 30th birthday, we'll be in Nashville together for CrimeCon and you
hmm.
could be there too. So let us know
Yeah.
if you are. And we would love to meet up with you.
Yes. Yes, yes, we would.
We talked about it a lot back in September, but like we had an absolute blast at CrimeCon in Orlando in September. Like it was super informative, just great opportunity. So we're super excited to be doing it again. So
Yeah, I'm excited and closer too, so we can just like drive and we can like
yes.
bring stuff and not have to spend $30 on a sandwich.
Yes, that will be yeah, that would be a lot better. And we won't have to worry about our flight being delayed by 2 hours
Oh
and
my God,
having
that's
to
true.
Uber for 45 minutes to our hotel.
Thinking we're
And
getting murdered and then we weren't. She was just taking a shortcut and I still
yeah,
apologize to you. Was her name Nancy?
I think so. I think it was Nancy.
Sorry.
What if she's listening after all these months? Because we talked about our podcast that she was also kind of confused about.
She was like, "You're going to what?"
Yeah, because she's like, oh, where are you guys going? And then she's like, oh, like, what's that? And at that
I
time, we're
know.
like, oh, a bunch of detectives because we thought we were getting kidnapped.
And I bet at
So
that moment she was like, "Is this a reverse kidnapping?"
I know she's like, are they gonna kidnap me? Am I in danger? That's why she was calling that guy. She wasn't trying to like.
Everyone in that car feared for their life. Oh, man,
Oh goodness.
what a time. What a time.
But we do have a couple of updates before we get into today's episode. So the first one, so this has kind of been an ongoing story about the person that was shot on set by Alec Baldwin back, I think like 2 years ago now at this point, or a year and a half
Mhm.
ago or something.
Yeah.
Um, so the armorer on set, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, has been sentenced to 18 months in prison after being found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. So she was found guilty last month, but she was just sentenced to 18 months today, which I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so that was the max that she was able to be sentenced to. So she was sentenced to the max for
Hmm.
what she was charged for. So basically, the jury decided that she was negligent and did not do her job in making sure that the weapon that was handed to Alec Baldwin did not have a live round in it. Yeah, that did result in the death of Helena Hutchins. So
Yeah, because
that
I mean,
was,
there's a lot of movie sets where this doesn't happen. I mean, I don't know how
yeah.
much. I assume weapons are used a lot and not just like CGI'd in
Hmm.
and stuff. So I can understand it because you have to be very diligent with your job.
And it's like, that is your whole job. Like, it's not, I mean, you are the armorer on set. Like, that is what you're there to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, and another pretty big update is that OJ Simpson, I almost messed up his name.
OJ
OJ
Simpson.
OJ Simpson. OJ Simpson died last week,
Hmm.
2 weeks ago, the time you're hearing this, but
Yeah.
it appears he had, I think it was prostate cancer, and so he died just in relation to that. So probably not the best time to make a joke, but I did see a lot on Twitter saying OJ can rest easy now, knowing his wife's killer is dead. Um, so yeah, but
Yeah.
speaking of that, that means OJ Simpson's officially on the table
Yes.
to cover, specifically Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman.
Hmm.
We want to talk about them, but OJ was a bit of a loose cannon, never wanted to do that, and then get blasted on Twitter or
Yeah.
sued. So, um, yeah, that'll be coming up in the next probably couple months because it's going to take me a hot minute.
It's going to be quite the endeavor. But yeah, we are looking forward to covering those victims' cases.
And hopefully, Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman's family can feel a little bit of peace now that he's gone, just because, like, I mean, he was just, even after he was criminally acquitted, just kind of out causing
Hmm.
issues. He was on Twitter. He was just very loud a lot and like making a lot of noise. And I think that's something that's really hard
Yeah.
to see, like while you're still grieving and not really getting criminal justice. Like I know they won like a
Exactly.
civil case, but like knowing he got to be free while your loved one is dead, and then he gets to be like on Twitter being like, "Hey world, I'm blah blah blah." Like
Hmm.
that's really hard to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. I did say though that they are, because I guess they've been receiving money from him like on an ongoing basis, but like they are entitled
Hmm.
now to like a big chunk of his estate now that he's gone. So
Yeah, I think
hopefully
that was
that
a part
process.
of the civil trials, like any
Yeah.
money he made went to them because he then wrote that book, the If I Did It.
Uh-huh.
And so they got to like reclaim that and basically made the if like this big. And so it just says I
I
did it by O.J. Simpson on the cover.
love it.
Um,
Are you going to read that for your research for the
I
episode?
might because I do own it.
Oh, okay.
Kevin
Okay.
wanted to read it at one point, took it to the
Hmm.
beach to read it, never finished it.
Such a man thing to do, or maybe it's
I
just our
know.
husbands, but
But I'm probably gonna end up reading at least a few books because I think Marcia
yeah.
Clark has a book. So there's probably gonna be a lot of research going into this, which is why it's gonna take a bit. But I
Yeah.
probably will read it just to kind of see what he says and like how bad
Hmm.
it does look.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think it would definitely be a good
discussion point.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get into today's episode, which I fucked up. So we typically try to not do cases that like have upcoming trials because we kind of like to wait until the results of that have,
I know we were just talking Friday, being like, no, we don't ever do open cases. We don't
yep.
ever.
Nope, nope, nope. And then I was like, say never again. So basically, when I was watching this episode, I think I got the date of the crime confused with a conviction date, because the way that it was presented in the episode, it very heavily focuses on the suspect that we are going to talk about. And so I think I just heard that he was convicted, and I was like, cool, great, here we go. And kind of waited a little too long to start the research on this episode. So by the time I realized that, it was like 48 hours to go until we were recording. And I was like, Courtney, help, what do I do? So we will cover an update on this
Mhm.
episode in the future. It's also going to be an espresso for two reasons. One, because it is a little bit shorter because there's been no trial yet. Also, two, because I literally finished it about an hour before we started recording.
That's why you
So
told me it was going to be an espresso because you just didn't finish it.
exactly. So last night, I'm like sitting there and I was like, I can't focus on this anymore tonight. And I was like, Courtney, it's just going to be an espresso. Like, you don't have to worry looking over the notes. And I'm like, because there's no notes. Don't look at it.
There's no notes.
So we just do my best around here. Okay. You win some, you lose some. And my bad, guys. But it's still an interesting story. And we will have a case to kind of be on the lookout for in the next few months. So we'll just get into it and you'll see what I mean by the end. Also, Courtney, do you know anything about this one? Because it is so new.
I do not. I've not heard about
Okay.
this one. At least I don't think so. I mean, maybe once you start talking, something will like seep into my brain, but it doesn't
Yeah.
sound familiar from like the
A
first
few,
sentence.
yeah, a few things that I heard like triggered my memory that I think I heard about it when it happened, but I didn't know like all of these details. So
Hmm.
the sources used for this episode were an episode of 48 Hours called Who Poisoned Angela Craig, and also a Denver Post article. 43-year-old Angela Craig passed away in the hospital on March 18th, 2023, after a mysterious illness had started weeks before. So, what caused Angela's death? So, Angela Craig had been married to her husband, James Craig, for 23 years, and they had 6 children together. James Craig was a dentist, and Angela worked as their office manager at his dental practice, Summerbrook Dental, in Aurora, Colorado. They seemed like a very happy couple, happy family. Other employees said they were always playing pranks on each other, and Angela was very involved in the day-to-day of the dental practice. Again, she was kind of like their office manager. She also assisted with like some new marketing and like changing up, materials and things like
Hmm.
that. And locals described their practice as a thriving small family business. The couple would work out together every morning before work, and they were very involved in their church and community. Again, just very well known, very well liked couple and family. On March 6, 2023, James was working at the dental office when Angela texted him from home and said, "My eyes don't want to focus. I feel drugged." So he immediately left work and picked Angela up and took her to the ER. She said she felt dizzy and weak, but the doctors couldn't figure out like what was wrong with her. Like there were no clear like signs of anything being wrong. So they did end up releasing her. However, within 24 hours of being home, Angela's symptoms came back even stronger. So she went back to the ER, and this time she was admitted to the hospital. So they conducted a lot of tests, but they still couldn't figure out what was going on to make this like otherwise healthy 43-year-old woman just so suddenly ill. There were many text exchanges between Angela and James as she was in the hospital, and he was going back and forth from the hospital to work to their home to care for their 6 children. Angela was complaining of headaches, nausea, constantly being cold. And one night around 1 a.m., James was sleeping on a stool next to Angela in her hospital room when her vital signs crashed. She was stabilized over the next day, and then on March 14th, she was released from the hospital, but doctors still had no answers about what was going on with her.
Which is so scary. Like, I know it happens like on a smaller scale when you're sick and they're like, we have no idea what's wrong with you. But it's just being like, I am so sick. Like, you can't do anything to help me.
Yeah. And they're just like, I don't know. All right, well, go home. And it's like, but then she keeps coming back because she still is sicker and sicker.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's just like they're running all these tests and they're like, we're just not finding anything wrong. And then it's hard too because then you're like, okay, like, is she telling the truth? Like, because a lot of those symptoms like
Hmm.
aren't things that you can like physically like see or test for or things like
Yeah.
that. And it's, yeah. So again, within a day of being back home, she started feeling sick again. And then on March 15th, she was admitted to a different hospital. So they didn't really specify why. So I don't know if it was like a better hospital or she was like it was a university hospital. So I don't know if they're like, oh, it's a more like research-based hospital. Like maybe they'll have
Mm-hmm.
more answers or things they can try. So James did go home about a half an hour after Angela was admitted and then came back with some food for her. Shortly after, Angela had a seizure and her vital signs crashed again, and this time she ended up on life support. So James texted his business partner, Ryan Redfern, and his wife, Michelle, about Angela's medical conditions. So Michelle was a nurse, and so the two exchanged texts like related to the specifics of Angela's health and like tests that they were doing and like what her different vital signs were and like some of those like specific like medical person to medical person type
Mm-hmm.
texts. He did also send photos of Angela being intubated and like worked on by the medical team. So like those photos are
Don't ever allow that happen to me. No
no.
one,
Yeah.
please. Please no.
And just like imagining what you're feeling in that moment, like seeing this medical team like rushing in, like working on your wife, and you're like, let me take a picture of this and like text it to my business partner and his wife. When like you
Yeah.
can't see like anything that could like be helpful to like knowing what's going on with it. It's not like,
It's not like they
oh,
don't
she's a
believe
nurse.
you.
Like, yeah. Like you just see like people and you see like his wife on the bed and yeah. And a few days later, on March 18th, 2023, Angela Craig died from this mysterious illness. So Ryan Redfern, the dental partner, was on the way to the hospital to console his business partner when he received a call from an employee at their dental office. So a package had arrived at the dental office a few days before, and James Craig had told the staff that he was expecting a personal package and to not open it. However, someone opened it anyway, and there was a label for potassium cyanide, which is not something you typically order for a dental office.
So crazy. Once you said that he brought her food, I was like, uh-uh,
Yep,
mm-mm, mm-mm.
red flag. Yeah. So potassium cyanide is highly poisonous, and the staff member like didn't understand why their dental office would have something like this, so they notified the partner Ryan Redfern. So Ryan also didn't know why James would have ordered potassium cyanide at their dental office. And when Ryan arrived at the hospital, like James was crying and visibly upset, and Ryan is immediately suspicious about Angela's sudden death and this arrival of a deadly drug at their dental practice that they had no use for.
Mm-hmm.
James had also sent a very strange text earlier in the week to Ryan's wife, Michelle, because they were like discussing the medical symptoms. And he said, if it wasn't my wife, this would be kind of a fun puzzle to try to work out. Exclamation mark.
Oh,
What? Like, your wife is like deathly ill in the hospital, and you're like, oh, if it wasn't my wife, like this would be kind of fun to figure out what's going on with her. Why is that even a thought that crosses your brain at this point?
yeah, because I know
A
people
fun
like
puzzle?
cope with stuff in like weird ways, but that's still like odd to say.
Yeah, very much so. So Ryan told a nurse about his suspicions and the potassium cyanide that James had ordered that they had no use for. So the nurse called Aurora police, and a member of the homicide unit was at the hospital within hours. So Ryan had already left the hospital when James called him and asked him if he had said anything to anyone at the hospital. And Ryan's like, yeah, like I told the nurse about this package that arrived at our office. And James said the package was a ring for Angela and he wanted to surprise her. And Ryan's like, it was not a ring. It was potassium cyanide. It has a label. Like, what?
Yeah.
It's pretty obviously what it is. So later, James texted Ryan and asked him not to talk to anyone, especially law enforcement, and reminded him that he was under no obligation to answer questions from the police unless he was subpoenaed. So he's basically like, do not talk to anyone about any of
He's like,
this.
shut up.
Yeah. So James Craig was arrested shortly after his wife's death and booked at the local jail at 9 a.m. the morning after she died. So very, very quickly. And Angela's autopsy did reveal that she had died from a lethal concentration of cyanide and tetrahydrolazine, which are commonly found in like over-the-counter eye drops, which you are not supposed to consume.
Yeah, that can
Um,
kill you because wasn't that a thing
yeah,
where like people would put like at restaurants they put like eye drops in people's like drinks, but if they're being rude because like it can give you like diarrhea or
yeah,
something, but like too much of it can like kill you.
yeah. Like in a large dose can be very, very deadly. Yeah. And other blood work also revealed that there was a toxic but not lethal concentration of arsenic from her earlier hospital visit. So they finally I don't know if they tested for this later, I don't know if they still had the blood, and so they were like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't even think to test for arsenic, let's test for that now. I don't know if that happened or if it was blood work that had to be processed in an outside lab that took longer to come back. Didn't really specify.
Yeah, I'm always wondering, like, how is arsenic not top of the list that you test for? Just because so many people do stuff like that, you know? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's
I don't
not the
know.
first thing on your mind with
Yeah.
I don't know. So police also found that a week before Angela's first hospitalization, James set up a new email account called jimandwaffles@gmail.com that he used to research poisons on a communal computer at his dental office.
Who's Boffles?
I don't know. Him? He likes waffles? I don't know.
So the dog? Who is that?
Who knows? So he had Google searches such as how many grams of pure arsenic to kill a person. And he also watched YouTube videos titled Top 5 Undetectable Poisons That Show No Sign of Foul Play. And just on and on and on, multiple of these types of searches and videos.
Mm-hmm.
So that same day that he started researching poisons according to his computer, which was February 27th, he also purchased arsenic online and had it delivered to his house. Which the article that I read said he purchased it on Amazon, which I was kind of afraid to search for because I didn't want to get flagged on anything because I already searched something about potassium cyanide.
Mm-hmm.
But you can order arsenic on Amazon?
I really want to look it up, but I'm on a shared account with my dad, and I'm scared he's gonna be like,
Courtney, what are you doing?
continue searching for arsenic. What's happening?
He's gonna call you and be like, do we need to have a chat?
There's
Yeah.
other options. You can just move back in. You don't have to.
So yeah, I'm not quite sure about that, but okay. Obviously, arsenic can be very deadly and it does not have any kind of taste or smell, so it is very easy to sneak into a food or a drink. So James received that package on March 4th, and Angela first went to the hospital 2 days later on March 6th. So a few days after purchasing the arsenic, James went back online and ordered oleandrin. So oleandrin is a toxin that's found in oleander flowers, and it prevents the heart from beating efficiently. So after 3 days, the oleandrin still had not arrived, so James placed the order for the potassium cyanide with a medical supply company. Potassium cyanide is one of the most effective poisons and can kill someone with a very small dose. And when you consume potassium cyanide, you're essentially being suffocated on a cellular level. It's very
Oh.
drastic, very bad. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you do need a medical license to purchase this because it is so deadly. But remember, Dr. James Craig is a dentist. So he's able to purchase this potassium cyanide even though he has no legitimate use for it. So I'm just how are you able to just purchase it without having a reason? Just because you have a medical
Yeah.
license,
I
you
feel like
can
it should
purchase
be
this.
only the people who are in this practice,
Exactly.
so a
A very
veterinarian
specific
can go
use.
order potassium cyanide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I tried Googling what potassium cyanide is used for because I'm is it ever used in a medical practice that it could be? But my dumbass accidentally Googled potassium chloride instead, and I read this whole article about dosing with potassium chloride, and I'm why does this article not warn people that this can be very deadly? And then I realized that I was looking at potassium
Mm-hmm.
chloride and not potassium cyanide, which are two very, very different chemicals.
I can imagine if people are microdosing, and
So I was very confused for a
microdosing
little
with
bit.
potassium cyanide is deadly. Yeah.
So yes, so James Craig told police that he needed the potassium cyanide for a complex dental procedure. Yes.
Okay.
So the potassium cyanide was delivered on March 13th, and Angela was hospitalized again for the second time on March 15th, which was the last time she entered the hospital before she passed away. So, as police continue investigating, they discover that the week before Angela first got sick, James took a trip to Las Vegas for a dental conference. So, there he met an orthodontist from Austin, Texas, and they supposedly fell in love. And now remember, this is the week before she first got sick.
Uh-huh.
10 days before his wife was first poisoned is when he met this woman. Met
I'm
her.
also trying to not laugh, but a dentist and an orthodontist falling in love at a dental conference? Like, that's some
Yeah,
nerd shit.
yeah. So they supposedly fell in love very quickly. And she did fly to Colorado and stayed with James in a hotel while his wife was in the hospital. Yep. And James used his new email account, the Jim and Waffles, to communicate with her. And so this orthodontist was aware that James's wife was in the hospital because there's like records of emails that she sent him saying, like, I'm thinking of you, like, I'm praying for your family. Like, she is aware that his wife is in the hospital. And she
Hmm.
also signed it, I love you. Again, they met less than 2 weeks before.
Is she
And
Waffles?
I don't know.
Anyway, sorry, I keep getting caught up on this. I'll
Maybe,
drop the
maybe she is.
waffles.
So James had told the orthodontist that he had filed for divorce and was living in another apartment. So that could kind of make her email make a little more sense where she's like, "Oh, like I'm so sorry your family's going through
Yeah,
this," but like she thinks they're separated, not that they were
are
living
together.
together at the time she was hospitalized. So she told detectives that their relationship was intimate but not sexual, and she also said she had nothing to do with his horrific crime and that her heart was broken for Angela Craig and her family. So the episode that I watched did use her name, but I didn't feel comfortable using it when it seems like she had nothing to do with it and was just guilty of
Yeah.
falling in love with the wrong man at a horrible time. Like,
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like she knew about anything he was doing or anything like
exactly.
that.
Like, didn't even realize he was still like actively married, had nothing to do with his
Hmm.
wife being ill. So didn't really feel comfortable using her name and dragging her through the mud for no reason. So James Craig was soon charged with the first-degree murder of Angela Craig. The arrest warrant was 52 pages long and detailed evidence found in his home, office, computer, and cell phone. So, as I mentioned before, Angela and James worked out together every morning, and James would always make her protein smoothies. So, investigators believe that that's where he was like slipping the poisons into her smoothies. And Angela's autopsy also showed that the levels of cyanide increased while she was in the hospital. So they do believe that one of the times that he brought her food right before the episode that led to her death, that he had poisoned that food as well, like while she was currently in the hospital from being poisoned.
That's insane that you'd be so bold to
Yeah.
do it like
To
right in
bring
front
it
of
into the
people.
hospital. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, other than his recent affair, investigators wondered if James had another motive to murder his wife. So, they did find that his dental practice filed for bankruptcy in 2020, and that's when Ryan Redfern signed on as a partner. And James and Ryan had been friends for decades before becoming business partners. And James did have a $3.4 million life insurance policy on Angela. So, they wondered if his financial
Hmm.
troubles were also a motive because he was in a lot of debt.
Yeah.
So now things get even more interesting if you didn't think it could. So, James's attorney said that he was arrested too quickly and no other suspects were even considered, which, like, he was arrested like the night she was murdered.
Hmm.
But you did also have potassium cyanide arrive at your dental office, and she did
Yeah.
also have lethal levels of cyanide in her blood.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
okay. So the attorney also claims that James was suicidal and ordered the potassium cyanide for himself. So she said that he suffered from depression and he told friends that he wanted to die by suicide with something that wasn't traceable. Because y'all know potassium cyanide is the way that you would choose.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
So James had gone to counseling in the past and had supposedly once drugged Angela so that he could die by suicide and she like wouldn't be able to stop him. Had like drugged her in the past because he's like, I'm gonna like make sure she's incapacitated so she can't like stop me or like provide medical assistance or anything like that. And this is backed up by the fact that the first time she got sick and she texted him saying that she felt drugged, the response that he sent to her said, quote, given our history, I know this is triggering. I promise I didn't drug you.
I'm
Yes.
speechless. I'm also
However,
just thinking that they have six children, right?
yes,
Oh,
yes.
oh,
And
that's
have to, I
horrible.
mean, I mean, and she was only 43 and he, I believe, is 46. Um, so like some of them have to be young children. Like you, I mean, they can't all be like grown. Like you're still pretty young. Like, um,
Like the fact that you know you have six kids and you supposedly want to die by suicide, and then you would drug your wife so she can't stop you, meaning you would leave six children unable to take care of themselves. I don't know ages, but again, like six kids. Oh my Lord.
yeah. So also, apparently, James had told Ryan that Angela was the one who was suicidal and that she had been threatening suicide and was, quote, playing chicken by asking James to order the potassium cyanide for her. So he basically was like, okay, yeah. So I told her, sure, I'll go ahead and order it, and was like daring her by ordering that. So apparently
Put her in a
there's
mental institution. Commit her.
yeah,
If you genuinely care about your wife, commit her. Don't order it
yes.
if
And
that's your story.
yeah. And in this episode I watched, James's attorney was like, well, only one of these stories can be true. And like was basically saying, like, well, when we go to trial, like we can only like use one of them because they contradict each other. Like either you ordered it for yourself to die by suicide, or you ordered it because your wife asked you to order it to die by suicide.
Yeah.
Because you're not both thinking, huh, suicide, potassium cyanide, here we go. What? What?
Yeah. Ugh. Oof.
So James and Angela Craig had been married for 23 years, and no one close to them noticed like any red flags, any signs of a rocky marriage. Again, they were both very well-liked people in the community. And in April of 2024, which yes, that is this month, a few
Mm-hmm.
days before I realized that this episode should not be ready right now. James was also charged with 2 counts of solicitation to commit tampering with physical evidence. So details of the complaint have not been released, but they do say that James tried to persuade his daughter to tamper with physical evidence in order to facilitate a crime between March 18th, which was the day Angela died, and March 31st. So it doesn't say exactly what in the
Mm-hmm.
information that's been released, but it sounds like something that he tried to get her to conceal what had
Yeah.
happened. He was also accused of trying to persuade a second person to cover up evidence between March 18th and June 15th, but no additional details are public at this time. James has pleaded not guilty to the charges against him, and his murder trial is set to start on August 8th, 2024. So here in a few months, we'll have some updates for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, like I said, don't like to do episodes that are still kind of open, but like also, I mean,
That's
if this man is not convicted, my mind will be blown. Like,
yeah, it just seems like too many things lining up. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you have you have searches on your computer, you have motive, you have opportunity, you have, I mean,
You have 3 different deadly poisons that you purchased. Like this
you have the
isn't,
money motive, you have the affair motive,
yeah.
you have the opportunity because you make her food, you brought her food, like,
You have drugged her in the past, and that's like a common thing between you two that you're like, oh, I know you might think that I did this because you're feeling bad. I didn't do it this time. And then it's like, okay, so when you drugged her in the past, like, were you actually trying to kill her then and you didn't use something that was strong enough, or you got over whatever you were? I mean, because it didn't really say how long ago that was. So I don't know if it was
hmm
like weeks, months, years. I have no idea. And I
Yeah.
mean, and it's not like someone could have framed him. Like he admitted to purchasing this potassium cyanide because he's like, oh, I needed it for a
Yeah.
complex dental procedure. Like it's not like he was like, oh no, I never did this, and like someone was like setting him up. Like again,
Yeah.
his defense, according to the attorney at the time this episode aired, was that he ordered the potassium cyanide for her because she wanted to die by suicide. But then he told police that he ordered it for a complex dental procedure. But then he told his business partner that it wasn't potassium cyanide, it was a ring. So, like,
And like with the timeline, she was in the hospital when the potassium cyanide showed up, right? Or did it show up before she was hospitalized? Because he originally did a different poison and
yes.
then the potassium cyanide came in. So
So the
Like
potassium cyanide arrived.
in between the first hospitalization
Yes.
and her
Yeah,
death. So I'm like also thinking if she's wanting to like die by suicide and is like daring you to order it when she's going to the hospital for being sick, why
yeah,
would she try to treat her sickness if she has no desire to live?
exactly. Why is she going back to the hospital 3 times now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
math ain't mathin'. Also, she's in
Yep.
the hospital, so if your wife is so like suicidal that
Mm-hmm.
she's asking that, put her in the psych ward that she's hurt. You're like, tell the nurses and be like, I think she
Exactly.
needs help because maybe she is so sick that she's
Mm-hmm.
feeling like down, defeated, suicidal. They have resources for that. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, it just,
it doesn't make sense.
no, none of it makes any sense. So yeah, that is the horrific poisoning of Angela Craig. And again, we will provide an update as soon as we have it. And sorry for doing this to you guys and just leaving you kind of, you know, hanging here, but
It's okay. We can do like a little bonus episode at some
exactly.
point with like a little
Yeah.
update when we have it.
And I'll try to be a little more conscious of dates at the beginning of researching episodes.
We gotta have an open one here and there.
Exactly, exactly. But yeah, and yes, it's I feel like it's good too sometimes to get some more detailed information about kind of like the current ones that are going on. So as you're like looking at news updates, you kind of have a little more background knowledge on what's up. So yeah, that being said, Courtney, what is your perk of the week?
So my perk of the week is this weekend. I got to go to a UT baseball game and got to see
Nice.
them. I got to go to the final game and we swept LSU, so just beat them right out of the park. But we got to go with our friends Alex and Alyssa, and like her brother was there, and Alex's sister and brother-in-law were in town and stuff. So it was nice to like see them and just kind of have a nice little day out at the ballpark. And I just love a baseball atmosphere. It's so
hmm
fun. It was hot, but it was fun.
It was a very
um,
warm weekend.
yeah, and just sitting there in the sun, and I just kept being like, Kevin, reapply sunscreen. Kevin, reapply sunscreen.
Don't get
Um,
burnt. Don't get burnt.
please don't get burnt. But yeah, so that was just super fun, and I love going to games and like sporting events and stuff like that. It's
hmm
always fun. I'm a little disgusted about how much I spent on beer at that game because those are expensive when
Yeah.
you're putting that into the money spreadsheet. When you get back, it hurts a little
You're like,
bit.
yikes.
Yikes, but it was worth it. So that is my perk of the week. Jacqueline, what is your perk of the week? Yeah, that was my face, and I was like, what's the most recent thing I've done?
So my perk of the week. I feel like I talked about this place very recently, on a different perk of the week, but uh we have a place here called Cruise Farm that does delicious ice cream. So we went there again this weekend. But the flavor I got this time, I got an oatmeal cream pie swirled with maple, and it was so good.
Hmm.
It was delicious. We used to have a dessert place that we loved in Richmond that did these amazing oatmeal cream pies, so it made me think of that.
Hmm.
But it was ice cream and it had the maple, and it was just very delicious. And it was just a beautiful like ice cream day. Like it was like gorgeous weather.
Hmm.
It was sunny. They have like a nice place you could like sit outside. Like my father-in-law met us there, and we just hung out and ate some ice cream, and it was delicious ice cream. I
Yeah,
very much enjoyed it. I
I love
just also
ice.
love ice cream in general.
I love ice
So
cream too. Kevin and I also got like these little mini cones at Aldi.
nice.
Like the ones that have the nuts on top of it, but I found ones
hmm
like without nuts on top of it.
So you don't
Um
die when you eat them. That would be
yeah.
nice.
Well, it was funny because Kevin forgot about it until tonight and he was like, "Oh, I'm eating one." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll eat one too." And he was like, "This is what I'm thankful for your peanut allergy because I don't like peanuts, but if you weren't allergic, you would probably buy the one with peanuts and I wouldn't like them that much." So, and I'm like, "What?"
Thank you
It
so much for
was
being allergic to this thing, so I don't have to eat it.
yeah, so which I'm just very thankful he hates peanuts and peanut butter
Yeah,
because that worked out pretty well that
it really did.
that happened.
It
But
was meant to be.
yeah, I honestly thought your perk of the week was gonna be your jalapeno dip that you made for book club because that was banging.
Wow. Yeah, that too. I guys, I cut up jalapenos and I used a blender and I like
Mm-hmm.
mixed things together. Like I wouldn't call it cooking, but like I made something
Yeah.
kind of from scratch. I mean, like I didn't, I mean, it's like a sour cream dip, but I had
You put it
jalapenos and
together. You didn't just
cilantro
like
and
buy it or
lime
anything.
juice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I made like a copycat recipe of Chewy's jalapeno dip if you guys have ever been there. And I think it turned out really well. Courtney
It
and
did
I
turn
and
out
her
good.
sister all loved it and have enjoyed the last few days because we had a bunch left over because it was pretty much just the three of us eating it.
Yeah.
So
It was mostly just us, but I slammed that jalapeno dip. It was good.
it was very delicious. I agree.
Kevin
I also
also
liked
tried
it a
it and
lot.
said he didn't think it was spicy. So
It was not spicy at all, but it was very good.
it was very, very good.
So yeah, so those are my food related perks of the week. Let us know your perks of the week. Let us know what you got going on. Your ice cream places, your favorite ice cream flavors, your dips you're making, your baseball games you're going to. Let us know, of course, your thoughts on this case, and we will, reconvene here in a few months, after the trial and discuss some more. But let us know your thoughts. Let us know if you're going to be at CrimeCon because we would love to see you. Our Where we're at on the interwebs and all that good stuff is in the show notes, so you can find us all there. But we are also on patreon.com/caffeinated crimes, where, as Courtney said, we do have a new episode coming out this week. Yes, you
Hmm.
guys are hearing this on Tuesday. We should have an episode on Thursday, hopefully.
Thursday, Friday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometime before the end of the month. It'll be
Yeah.
very soon. But yeah, we do have different tiers over there. So as low as $3 a month, you get all of our bonus episodes, which is more than 40 at this point, which is pretty wild.
Hmm.
And then a little bit higher up, we got stickers and pins and gifts and Discord. You can hang out with us at any level, I think, and just all kinds of stuff going on. So please come join us.
Yeah.
And we appreciate all of you who are over there supporting us. It really helps us and makes a difference and is helping to send us to CrimeCon, where we can learn more and do better and bring it all back here to you.
Yeah, exactly. And if you wouldn't mind to give us 5 stars on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and if you are possibly someone who somehow got unsubscribed from us on Apple Podcast, please just try to resubscribe, get those downloads,
Yes.
anything like that. Also, YouTube, if you can give us a like, a subscribe, anything like that is always greatly appreciated. But in the meantime, go have a cup of coffee.
And don't commit a crime.